Everybody, today we're going to be looking at y and x axis intercepts. So just a very quick reminder that on a Cartesian plane, the y axis is the vertical plane and the x axis will be horizontal. And we're trying to find at what point, let's say if we have an equation that goes something like this, for example, at what point does it intersect the y-axis and the x-axis based on a formula that we're given. So the way that is very common way to solve how to do this problem, and probably the easiest way, is to, when you've got given your equation, you either make y equal to 0, and that gets your x-axis intersection, or you do when x equals to 0, and that'll give you the y-axis intersect. But let's actually see this in practice of what it looks like for a certain question. It can give us coordinates like we can see here. It says that the y-intercept is 0, 6. So it's 0 on the x-axis. 0 on the x-axis is something like that point there. It isn't any further left, so it isn't in the minuses, and it isn't any to the right. It isn't in the positives. So as we can see with that example that they gave, they called it 0, 6 because it is 0 in terms of x. And that's what we call our y-axis intercept when the x is equal to 0. But then we've got the other way around, which I'll use a different color. So if we wanted to look at now when it intercepts the other axis, which is the x-axis here, so now this point here, that means it's got to have a y of 0, just like this point that says -4 and 0. If we have got a point that says -4 and 0, that means we have made the y-axis say 0. So when y equals 0, that will give us the intercept of the x-axis. And to further describe this red point that I've got over here, if we have a look at that point, you can see that the point is, when it comes in terms of height, so this is our y-axis, how vertical, it's equal with over here. It's equal at the 0, the 0, the 0. All of that is 0 on the y-axis. It's not high up into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's not down in the negative section. So that is the key to being able to solve these sorts of questions, to make your either x or your y equal to 0. Now I'm going to rub all that out, and we're actually going to look at a couple other little pictures. Oh, we'll keep that writing. Anyways, let's have a look at a couple of pictures. So we've already seen this one, which shows a couple of x and y intercepts. Now let's look at this other one. Now this one says y equals 3x minus 1. Let's actually write that in. Y equals 3x minus 1. Okay, so we want to make one of these 0, well, both the y and the x at different times, and we'll do what we can with it. Again, we'll go slightly different color to break it up a little bit. Let's go green. So if we let x equal 0, that'll be the first thing we do. Make x equal 0 to get our y-axis intercept. So if we make x equal 0, it will say y equals, if x is 0, that means it's 3 times 0. 3 times 0 minus 1, which of course we will know that as 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 1 will be minus 1. So y equals minus 1. Now if we look when x equals 0 on our picture, x equals 0 down the bottom here. So there's our x-axis and there's minus 1. So when x is 0, so that means that we're not any further left or any further right, we're just down here, it's at minus 1. Now let's pick a different color now to do when y equals 0. So now we're going to do the y equals 0, so we're going to figure out when it cuts the x-axis. So we had y equals 3x minus 1, we're now going to have 0 equals 3x minus 1. Now for anything like this that we need to solve, we need to try to get the x's by itself. So this needs to go on the other side. Because it is minus 1, we'll do the opposite. We plus 1 to both sides. So you end up getting 1 equals 3 divided by 3x, which of course is 3 multiplied by x. And then again, we've got to do the opposite of what's going on here. This is multiplied by 3, we will divide by 3. So you end up getting 1 on 3 equals x. That's 1 on 3. And this is what it, and this shows it. The point that we've got over here, that is 1 divided by 3. It is a third of the way between 0 and 1. Third of the way between our 0 and our 1. There it is, 1/3. And the coordinate for that one, because we've let y equal 0, that will be 1 on 3, comma 0, whilst the other one will be 0, comma minus 1. So remember that we will always have one number that has the first number as a 0, or one coordinate has the first number as a 0, one coordinate that has the second number as a 0. Now let's get rid of all this, and let's actually try and do some questions from Khan Academy, because they have lots of practice questions that we can work on. So it is saying determine the intercepts of the line of y equals 5x minus 13. So again, we've got to take turns in making each thing 0, either our x or our y. Y equals 5x, take 13. Y equals 5x minus 13. My 3 is always going to look bad on this, so I apologise. I'm not sure why it's having so much difficulty with writing. Anyways, so we'll make one of them 0. We'll make y 0. 0 equals 5x minus 13. We want to get the x's by itself, so we need to get these to the other side. So this is minus 13. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to do plus 13. So 0 plus 13 is 13, and that equals 5x. And the opposite of 5 times x will be to divide by 5. So this is x multiplied by 5. We want to divide by 5 both sides to get rid of that 5. So that will end up getting so we are back. I'm sorry, there was a bit of a distraction. So 13 equals 5x, because we've got rid of the 13 from the right hand side. But because it's 5 multiplied by x, we need to divide both sides by 5 to get rid of that 5 in front of the x. And then what we end up getting will be 13 equals 13 divided by 5. So it would look like a fraction, equals x. So like this. (13 over 5) equals x, which that number is, I believe, 2.6 off the top of my head. Now if we're going to do it the other way around, we'll use a different color. If we're going to make x equals 0, it's very easy. Y equals 5 times 0. That will then become a 0. So y equals 5 times 0, which will be 0, minus 13 and that will be able to be shown as plus 13 to both sides. Actually, sorry, we won't need a plus 13 to both sides. It's just y equals minus 13. So that means that our actual coordinates, when x is 2.6, that means that the y is 0. And then for the other one, it will be when x is 0, y equals minus 13. So let's go put that in and see how we do. So the y-intercept is 2.6 and 0. And, well, hang on, got that the other way around. So when we're in, we'll have a look. Not that picture. Doesn't want to go look at the other picture. I'll open it. So when we're looking at the x-intercept, we've got to make sure that our second number, the y value, is the one that is 0. X-intercept, the second number, will be 0. Can be easy to get it confused. So 2.6 and 0, and I believe this was 0 and negative 13, was it? Yes. There we go. Next one. Next one, y minus 3 equals 5x to the minus 2. Well, they've made this one a lot harder. Y minus 3 equals 5x minus 2. So first up, we're going to make y equals 0. So we're going to say 0 take 3 equals 5x minus 2. So we're going to multiply that out. 5 times x will be 5x. 5 times minus 2 will be minus 10. So that means that we've got minus 3 on this side. We've got minus 10 on this side. We will plus 10 because that's the biggest number of the two of them. That way we get the x by itself, or the x with the coefficient in front of it. So if we plus 10 to both sides, plus 10, we'll end up getting minus 3 plus 10, which equals 7. And then that is going to equal 5x. And then, because it's 5 times x, we're going to divide both sides by 5. And that will get us 5 divided by 7 will be 7 divided by 5 on this side. 7 divided by 5. And then that will equal x. So that is making y equals 0. So 7 on 5. 7 on 5. Oh, make that. We'll delete that. Make it a lot neater. An x value of 7 on 5 and a y value of 0, and that's for our x-axis. X-intercept. Now it's much easier to just make x equals 0. If we make x equals 0, again we'll go different color. It will be y take 3 equals 5 times 0 minus 2. 5 times 0 is our first thing that we'll do. We'll make 0. 5 times minus 2 will still be minus 5 times 2 is 10, and 5 times minus 2 will be minus 10. So we're going to have minus 10 on one side, and on the other we're going to have y minus 3. And the equals in the middle. so difficult to actually do this properly. Either way, we'll write the first one in anyways. 7 over 5 and 0. That way we can clean our palette. That's the x-intercept. And we're gonna get rid of everything except y take 3 equals minus 10. Y take 3 actually it was just, I'm just double checking to just make sure that's what I was. Okay, so we want to get the y by itself though, so that means that we need to get this away, and so we're going to do the opposite. Y plus 3 will end up getting rid of that, so it's minus 3. We're going to do plus 3 to both sides, plus 3. So if we plus 3 to that side, we will only get y. If we plus 3 to the other side, we'll get minus 10 plus 3, which will be minus 7. Therefore, we're going to have an x value of 0 and a y value of 7, minus 7. Got to make sure we get that right. And we'll see how that goes. Nice. Let's go through this one a lot quicker. This will be the last one. Hopefully I'll just do less writing. So, minus 6 plus 3y equals minus 7. Minus 6 plus 3y equals minus 7. So, first thing, we'll just make one of these zeros. Can't forget our x. We'll make the x 0 first. Minus 6 times 0, so I put a little 0 underneath it. Minus 6 times 0 will be 0. Then we'll have, so we can actually get rid of that 0 because we don't need to consider it, right? So that all that becomes 0, and then we've just got 3y equals minus 7. Because this is multiplied by 3 over here, we're going to do the opposite, which will be divide. So y is multiplied by 3, we're going to divide both sides by 3. So it will end up being minus 7 over 3, and it will equal y. So that's our y-axis value when our x value is 0. So 0 minus 7 over 3. So we'll put that in. And minus 7 on 3. Now for the other one, instead of making x 0, we'll make y 0. So if we make y 0, that means it'll be 3 times 0, which will make that whole thing 0. So what we'll have minus 6x equals minus 7. Now, all we need to do here is to divide both sides by minus x, because at the moment it's by minus 6, because both sides at the, well, this left hand side has got the x multiplied by minus 6, and we want to get that x by itself, so we have to do the opposite. At the moment it's multiplied by minus 6. We will now divide both sides by minus 6. When we do that, that minus 6 disappears, so we will just be left with x on one side, and on the other side we will have minus 7 divided by minus 6. Now that's all we need for that one. So that will be our x value, our y value will be 0. So that's our coordinate, minus 7 over minus 6 and 0. Ooh, it says we've got it wrong. It might just want us to simplify. The reason it wants us to simplify, well, it's sort of unknown really. It still gets you the same answer either way. But I guess it just looks a little bit nicer if you don't have multiple minus signs when you don't need it. Anyways, that is how we do these sorts of questions. I'll leave a link to Khan Academy so you can practice these. But yeah, just make sure that you do the very generic working out. You let one side equal 0, you let another side equal 0. See that? That's exactly what we did. You make the y equal 0, then you solve. And then for the other way around, you make the x equal 0, and you solve. And it's all just about isolating the unknown. At the start here, we have the unknown, minus 6 plus 3 times 0, which of course just makes it 0, so it's minus 6 x, and so it's minus 6 times x. We want to get that minus 6 out of there, so we divide both sides by minus 6. Minus 7 divided by minus 6, the two minuses end up making a positive. When we go the other way around, so we made that x 0, minus 6 times 0, which would make it disappear. We therefore just have the 3y. 3y and equals minus 7. So that's 3 times y. We've got to do the opposite, like I kept saying all video. So it'll be minus 7, will be both sides divided by 3, and then you get minus 7 on 3. So yeah, I hope that is helpful. I'll do another follow-up video where I can actually write a lot neater with the whiteboard. And yeah, but if you've got any questions, please leave it in the comments below. Thank you for your time.